This is Johnny with TigerBomb MMA, and tonight I'm going over UFC Fight Night Vegas. Was it Song Yadong versus Chris Gutierrez? Giving you my thoughts and predictions on the whole fight. Still sick, so what are you gonna do? Funny enough, in that last video, if you watched it, probably didn't, but hope you didn't because I had a horrible fucking night. But I cut out where I said like, hopefully I feel better. I cut that shit out, so it's like ending abruptly because I'm like, I should feel better by then. Yeah, no, I got all fucked up. But yeah, I'm gonna give you my thoughts on this card. Didn't really do too much overall research. Funny enough, said I wasn't gonna do research. I ended up doing minimal amounts of research, but I think I know the fighters well enough to get a basis on it. I'm not gonna go crazy with betting on this card, but there's a couple spots that I might dabble in just to try to recoup some of my losses from last week, which I will talk to you about now. The Sarukian versus Dariush fight, where it was a total of 11 bouts. Out of those 11 bouts, no, that wasn't 11, it was 12 bouts. Out of those 12 bouts, I predicted all of them. So 12 out of 12 I predicted. If you carry the one, I got like 33% of them correct. So I went like eight. No, I'm sorry. I went 4 for 12. So I got four right and eight wrong. Horrible night. Like a couple things, I'm like, well, no shit. I took a risk, but some of these things were a little like, I'm an idiot. What the fuck was I thinking? And or where did that come from? But like first fight of the night, I took Jamie Lynn Horth. I was talking all this shit on Discord. Like, yeah, I took Horth at like minus 110. And then she got ballooned up out to the way like minus 200. So I'm just like, fuck, no matter what happens, like she's not going to cover her price tag anymore. But the minus 110, I felt comfortable with. And, she didn't win. It was a proper split decision. I do think the second round was close. Realistically, though, I think Hardy did enough to edge it, but I wouldn't have been crazy if she got the split decision win. Like, I think she did fairly enough. But what sucked about that fight was that Jamie Lynn Horth could have won it had she not fought kind of scared. Like, yeah, Veronica Hardy was faster. Jamie just didn't use her, I guess, big ass features, horse her ass against the cage. She just refused to really fight her. She was too tentative. And then she kind of figured everything out like late second round. Third round, she won it. It's kind of sucky. I still think the same about Veronica Hardy, but I do think like I took her against Miller as a big dog. When she became a big dog, I should have, I didn't feel like it, but I should have taken a shot on her. But yeah, it is what it is. Jared Gooden defeats Wellington Turman. Turman looked good. Turman was looking really good, and then Turman it up real bad. Like he allowed Gooden back into the fight. I don't know what the hell was that lapse of judgment where you dominate him in the first, you beat his ass, control him, try to submit him, and then he ends up submitting you in the second round. It was pretty bad from Turman. Like it shows that no matter how good a guy can get, if he doesn't have that like toughness in him, which unfortunately Turman does not have, he's not going to be able to like continue winning fights. Like all you got to do is withstand the storm and then catch him, right? Just blindly swing, which is kind of what Gooden did. Gooden's tough bastard, right? He's not the greatest fighter, super tough, super durable. Ended up finding his way and submitting Wellington Turman, which I was like, Jesus, don't do it, man, don't tap. not in front of your boys, was what it was though. Bellotto though, I specifically said, man, Bellatto's going to win this fight. He's going to probably TKO him in the second round. Just don't give him a chance. Bellotto gave him so many fucking chances, dude. Like Pretoria, props to him. The best base for MMA is having a giant Jesus tattoo on your chest because he looked great. Like I was joking with friends and buddies and saying that like Pretoria is the worst fighter in the light heavyweight division. The thing about him though is that you don't expect him to do much. Like a little story. I got sucker punched by a kid with Down syndrome once, and I'm looking around. I'm on the ground. I'm like, who hit me? And I look at the Down syndrome kid, like, hey, do you know who hit me? And he's like, I'm like, it couldn't have been him. That's how Ihor Pretoria is. Like, you don't expect him to whip your ass. You don't take him seriously. And that's kind of what Rodolfo Bellotto kind of did. Like, he didn't really take him all too seriously. He felt as if his power wasn't that bad. He got cracked, and he deservedly got dropped. I heard some people saying that like he should have gotten stopped. No, no, no. He was defending well enough. Funny enough, though, between us, Montalvo was not going to let a fellow Brazilian get TKO'd by a Vittoria. You know what I mean? But it was what it was. You know, Bilato to me survived. I think he learned a lot. I was a little disappointed though. Like that little time sequence of him getting dropped and hurt should not have happened. Yes, Pretoria could have had some good moments. I kind of expected that. Did not expect him to get dropped though. I'm like, just don't get dropped, dude. He didn't fucking listen. But he ended up getting the TKO. He got them out. Was what it was. Doesn't matter. I didn't win any bets. Drakkar Close slams Joe Selecki. I was at least right about that. I almost bet Drakkar like kind of live, but I'm like, no, no, no. Like, let's wait for my parlays to play out. But that slam, though, kind of made things like okay for me. I'm like, all right, whatever happens tonight, at least we got that nasty slam. That slam was vicious. Like, I know people talk about the Brundage one being worse. No, the Selecki one was way worse. That shaved a lot of years off that man's life, which is crazy, though, because Joe Selecki's a solid jiu-jitsu guy. He should have known to let go or to do something different. And then Drakkar, like I kind of mentioned, at least I was right about fucking Drakkar. You know what I mean? Like he's good enough everywhere to beat a guy like Joe. I thought he could knock him out, but realistically, if it would have played on the feet, I thought if Drakkar hurt him, Joe would have just kind of booty scooted his way around to survive, but did not see a slam coming. Cody Brundage defeats Zach Reese. Now, I did bet Reese inside the distance because, like, why the fuck wouldn't I? I avoided Cody even though I knew the outcome of what happened. Anything could happen with Cody Brundage, man. He could chip a nail and he'll win the fight by I don't know, unanimous decision. I don't know. But Zach Reese, I will say, despite the loss, he did some really good stuff on the mat. He had him in a really tight overhook, like kind of like the mirror lock. I forget what you call it. Like he was just cranking it real good. The way he got that triangle was fantastic. But again, he didn't let go. Had he let go, I think he could have eventually, maybe not right then and there, maybe not even in that round, he would have whipped the shit out of Cody. Because like Zach was attacking, and I was very impressed with Zach. Other than him, losing the fight for Cody, I think he's just prolonging the inevitable, right? Like I don't know who they're going to match him up with next. I think he's super capable. It's just that he's kind of a flake. So I'm still not a fan of Cody, but like I kind of knew that was a possibility. But what it was. Julia Avila. I mentioned how no shit. I sound better. I mentioned how like she must have learned how to stuff a takedown. Nah. Misha Tate, I'm not going to sit here and tell you she's back or whatever. She just clearly handled Avila in the one way that Avila can be handled, which was like, it's kind of embarrassing, man. Like I didn't really buy into too much into this fight. I was just kind of really disappointed in Avila, like, because when they were exchanging on the feet, Avila was landing, and then Misha just, I don't know, just took her down easily. I don't even know how else to describe it. Like she just fell over. I'm like, oh fuck, might as well get on top of her. Dustin Stoltzfus defeats Punahele Soriano. I was super disappointed in this one. Puna, realistically, better fighter, stronger. To me, the better athlete, obviously, better fighter. Period. Loses to the guy who sucks, right? In Dustin Stoltzfus. My issue with Puna is that he has so much potential, so much raw potential, that you expect him to make these huge leaps and bounds. Like you learned from your last lessons of you're throwing nothing but power and not combinations, and you expect people to fall with your one punch. It doesn't happen. You learn from that. Did not learn from that. The corner was telling him after round one where like he was landing on Dustin, hurting him, but like just the one shot, like you mix it up with another shot, you drop his ass, you finish him. Dustin eventually drops him in the first. I was like, come on, dude, you're really going to let Dustin drop you? Like, Dustin's not at your level. Puna fought to his level. Dude, I was the most disappointed in Puna. I had a lot of parlays with him. And, I even considered putting some serious money on a money line straight. I didn't, because I ended up using that money to buy a puppy. But I was like, Puna, like, that really sucked. It really sucked to know that, like, no matter how many drills you can do with your boxing and your punching and your rounds with Sean Strickland, like calling you a pussy, you still won't listen to your coaches. And I think that was the biggest issue. And I do think he should get cut, go to like LFA regional scene, learn to box better, learn to use your combinations better. Don't expect to drop everyone with your power. And I think he'll be back. But right now, he's not listening. And that's the biggest issue. You can have all that potential and just not listen to your coaches and lose to a guy like Dustin Stoltzfus. Joaquim Silva defeats Clay Guida. I kind of felt like Guida was not necessarily live, but like he can make things interesting. I liked Silva. I eventually had him on a parlay again, busted, but like -2 something. He ballooned up to like -300. I thought that was nuts. And, he did exactly what he needed to do. I thought his threat of the guillotine was the most impactful thing in this fight, because anytime he grabbed like front headlock, Clay kind of just stopped wrestling. He was like, fuck, this is tight. But yeah, it was what it was. Fine fight, fun fight. Sean Brady defeats Kelvin Gastelum. Yo, what I said about Kelvin was that he's got the grappling. He's good enough to survive and then get back up. In the first round, he got taken down. He survived getting his back taken, got back up, even landed a few punches on the ground. And I'm like, fuck yeah, here we go. Because I bet Kelvin. And then it's after that, he just kind of forgot the next step, which is crisp punches. Because there was a moment in that first round where he was up after he got kind of like controlled on the ground. And he's throwing punches, but they were fucking sloppy. And I'm like, whoa, shit, we're in trouble now, buddy. And then Sean just did what Sean did. Like, he just had to grapple fuck him. I don't want to say I wasn't impressed by Sean, because that's kind of what he does. Like, I wasn't like surprised by him. I was just like, dude, Kelvin, what the fuck? That kind of hurt, just knowing that Kelvin might be completely done. Yeah, he made 170 easy. I kind of felt good about that. It's just that like that 170, even though he made that transition easily, like it's almost like he lost all his nutrients, all that al pastor that makes him powerful at 185. So, ooh, that one that one really stung. The one that stung the most, though, Davidson defeating Rob Font. I knew Davidson had a good chance to beat Font by using grappling. I did not expect, if I'm being honest, man, I did not expect bare minimum Figgy to come out, because I will say one thing about what Figgy did that was like, that's pretty smart. But I knew he was going to try to grapple. I knew he was going to try to take him down, maybe work his guillotines and stuff. I was positive that Rob Font can get back up, which he did. He swept from bottom, got back up. Now was, let's go, Font. Let's start throwing that jab from afar. He was gun shy. And this was before he got hit. And I even said, like, I don't know if that power, I don't think that power is going to translate. Fucking translated pretty well. The issue was that Font was just, lack of a better word, too pussy to strike with Davison. The reason, though, what I was impressed by Davison is that the way he countered that jab was by leaning way the fuck back to ready to counter, because like Rob would throw that quick jab, and then right after that, Davison would just kind of like leap forward. And I guess Rob kind of got terrified out of that. So I was like, interesting approach from Davison. He wasn't really doing much early. And then when he did, it was just the more impactful stuff. So props to Davison. Like, he did kind of a perfect game plan. Like, I knew the wrestling was going to be there. I just didn't really expect him to like coil up all the way and lean back and then like bop, which, Font never really picked up on. He was just too afraid to throw. Anyways, Jalen Turner defeats Bobby Green. Basically, like, if this was like a gang initiation, like, I think Bobby Green would have been like a member for life after that, because that was a rough one. Like, I knew Jalen was going to knock him out. Like, I respect Bobby. I love Bobby, but Jalen's just, again, a different caliber. And that stoppage was pretty nuts. Like, it went from like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, you should probably stop it now. But like, part of me was still like, keep going, Jalen. Not because I hate Bobby. I just kind of like, fuck it. Let's ride this out. Let's see how bad it can get. And it got pretty bad. Arman defeats Beneil Dariush. Now, I bet Beneil, because I'm like, he made Wadey look good. And I thought, like I mentioned in the last video, as long as he doesn't get starched, which is a possibility in the first round, it can be interesting. Well, he got starched in the first round. Did not get interesting. Like, again, I still have my doubts about Arman, because I wanted to see how that fight played out. Like, if Arman defeated him soundly after like 2-3 rounds, I think he'd be ready for a title bout. I don't think he's quite ready yet. I still need to see more from another top level guy who can actually take punches. So I don't know what's next for Beneil, because at this point, it's just, you kind of bum rush him, you blitz him, and you can probably get him out of there early, and you can avoid all that technique that he's going to throw at you. As for Arman, though, he's got the power. It's just that, again, if it becomes a fight on the feet, like if he goes up against Ismail, almost called him Israel, Islam, if he goes against Islam, I think Islam's got the better striking. I think his boxing's not as bad as Armin's, and he's got the power as well. So I'm just overall curious. But yeah, this night, when I first started the channel with my buddy Jose, the initial I'll tell you the initial thing I wanted to do was each week we'd compete against each other for what we would call the Triple C. It's not something that you wanted to win, meaning that the person between the both of us who got the worst prediction would be the Triple C, which we would call the chugging champion. And for Dariush versus Sarukian, I was a chugging champion. I chugged a lot of this night. Was what it was. Moving on, though. Overall, though, like, I'm not deterred. I'm still, like, predicting like a 67%. I ain't going to hit 70 this year. It's fucking done. That was my goal. But hopefully I can do better on this card, because the Gutierrez Song card, I think it's pretty cut and dry. You know, there's not going to be a whole ton of surprises here. I don't think there's going to be many slams, but we'll see what happens. But first fight of the night, female fight, fantastic. Strawweight, we've got Rayando Santos versus Talida Alencar plus 115. Comeback on Santos is a minus 140. Alencar, if you don't remember, she was in Contender Series. She gave herself the Brazilian death gas against some other Brazilian chick, and she went to a draw. Great jiu-jitsu. Fantastic jiu-jitsu. Like, super accredited. She's 33 years old. She's kind of small. 5'1", 58.5-inch reach. Dos Santos, on the other hand, you know, she's 14-6. She's got a ton of experience. She's going to be the taller girl by an inch. Longer reach, 62 inches. I think the minus 140 here. I was kind of leaning a little bit on Alencar, because I'm like, you know what? If she can get a takedown, maybe go for submission. But realistically, though, Dos Santos is a black belt. She's fought more people. She's fought good people. I think she has a ton of power in her punches. At least visually, it looks good. And Alencar, I cannot trust her to not gas. Now, I will say, if you are on the Alencar side, the positive thing about her is that if she does get a takedown, I think her top control is fantastic. Now, I don't know how it works out in like these types of fights, like black belt versus black belt. Some black belts are blacker than others. Now, if Alencar, her path to victory would be obviously go for the submission, get her to the ground, multiple takedowns, control her, and just do enough to like not die, I think that's her path to victory. But if Dos Santos can survive and avoid the takedowns, get back up, avoid the nasty spots, I just worry that she'll be too comfortable on the ground. I don't think that's going to be the case, but on the feet, I think she's going to start whipping her ass. Invest to the body, you know, eventually. I mean, all I need for her to do is to survive the initial takedown. I see a potential for a good, maybe second round live bet on Dos Santos if she does get taken down early and gets controlled. I want to see how she kind of fares off of her back if I end up deciding to bet her. I like betting stupid women's MMA bouts, the first ones, because if there's potentially like value on the dog, I don't really think so with Alencar, but if Dos Santos becomes a dog, there's a good chance there. I'm going to pick Dos Santos to win this bout by TKO in the third round. I think eventually she'll start landing to the body well and get Alencar out of there. There's a good chance you can even sub her later in like the round number 3, because she's also a black belt. So I'm just curious to see how this goes. But I like what I've seen from Alencar in the sense of like the control. But when she controls girls, it's because they have nothing for her. And I do think that Santos is going to have at least something for her. So go round number 3 after a death gas. Next bout, I'm not even going to talk about it too much. I like Hernandez here. Plus 340. I'll take a chance on the man. I call him, I guess, Chicano. I used to call him Mexican Carlos Hernandez, but like Chicano Carlos Hernandez. Fuck. Chicano Frankie Edgar. I'm still sick, goddammit. I like what he has. He's got the wrestling. He's got the good boxing. He's just tough. He's scrappy. And Taira, I know how good Taira is, like, but he's minus 440 here. Now he's fighting another Mexican dude, right? Like, he's just been fighting nothing but Mexicans, man. Just Hispanics. Carlos Candelario, he decisioned him. Shit, man. He's on a murderer's row right now. He's like taking him out. CJ Vergara, Mexican armbar. Jesus Aguilar, Mexican armbar triangle. Edgar Gutierrez, he decisioned him. I just think that Hernandez has enough moxie in him to be able to beat Taira. Like I know that he got beat by Nascimento got his back taken. I just don't know how good Taira is going to be able to do that. Like, I think for a guy like Carlos Hernandez, a guy who gets embarrassed like that, gets his back taken once, but that's a legit black belt in like fucking disgusting jujitsu and Nascimento for him to do that. Like, I don't know if Taira can do the same. And I was like praising this guy, even against Nascimento. I'm like, dude, just avoid that. Don't get your back taken. If you do, don't panic. I even think he admitted that he panicked on that one. But like, you just start attacking the body, make him do the booty scoot, and you can win this fight. And I think in this particular fight, he can do enough defending and landing better shots to win, possibly even a split decision. Like minus or plus 340. Like, I'm willing to take a shot on him. I'm willing to be wrong, honestly, on Carlos Hernandez, because like I am a fan of his style. And I think at one point he might even overshadow Nascimento, because I like Nascimento a lot, but I do see his limitations when it comes to like the stand up and the striking. Like, if you can avoid takedowns, like what else do you got? Like, Carlos has hands. So I'm going to go with Hernandez to win this one by decision. Like, I like Taira. I think he's a really good, scrappy young fighter, man. But like, I still think he's still a little too young. And there's going to be that moment where a more seasoned fighter, a veteran, and I consider Hernandez, even though he's like 9-2, to be a veteran. I think he's fought a lot of good competition. So has Taira himself, but I just don't think he has that mentality quite yet. Like, if he gets put in a spot, he might just kind of like lean on his athleticism opposed to like Carlos leaning on fight IQ. Moving on, Stephanie Egger versus Luana Santos. I'm going to take Egger here for a decision. Santos minus 200, to me, it doesn't make any sense. I have not been impressed by her, period. She can strike. She's got the judo background. Egger has judo or sambo. I think judo as well. Like, she's 35. She's moving up in weight, Santos is. I just think that Santos relies too much on, like, I don't want to call it explosiveness, but for lack of a better term, explosiveness, like big strikes. Eggers is more steady. She'll throw a pretty solid right hand. She'll control from the top. She'll be the bigger girl here. And although it says here that she's 5'6" and 5'6", I think she's like the bigger girl, you know what I'm saying? She's more accustomed to the bigger bodies. Like, Santos has fought at 135 before, but that was like years ago. I'm going to go with Egger here just because I don't fucking care. Moving on, Steve Garcia versus Costa. Costa. Funny enough, the puppy that I got looks a lot like Costa. he's a brown with like little spots and shit, like more whatever. I still got Costa by knockout. Like, I don't know what the issue was with Steve Garcia where he pulled out. Again, to make it short, I love Steve Garcia, super big dog. And I don't mean that in the money wise. He is plus 210 dog, as in he's got the dog inside of him. But I think Costa's just a little bit slicker, a little bit more patient. That's the downside of Costa. Sometimes he can be a little bit too patient, but I think when he finds his shot, he's going to put Steve out. So I'm going to say round number 1 knockout. Interesting bout here. We've got Young Sung Park versus Shannon Ross. Peace of Mind, which I fucking hate that nickname, versus Turkish Delight, Shannon Ross. Shannon plus 180. Now, I'll say this real quick. Just like I said last week with Cody Brundage, sorry, Shannon Ross, this is his easiest fight in a long time. He's fighting a guy who realistically doesn't have a whole ton of knockout power, but does that really matter? That is a question you have to ask yourself. I've seen some tickets for Shannon Ross. I don't disagree with him, but he got knocked out disgusting by the shortest reach in the UFC, and Jesus Aguilar. Clayton just finished him immediately. This dude has sub like 10-second knockouts, I believe. Like, how many seconds were they when they knocked his ass out? Like, for sure less than a minute. Let's see here. Against Aguilar, it was how many seconds, Daddy? Show me. It was 17 seconds. Against Clayton, it was less than a minute, literally a second away from a minute. So the dude is capable of getting knocked out, but he's a solid enough fighter, right? He's a solid enough fighter to, when he's not out cold, he can scrap a bit. You know, he can make things interesting. Plus 180, I don't disagree with it. Park, though, like, he was away from the UFC. He won the fucking road to the UFC. He fought Seung-Guk Choi, and I've seen some stuff on Twitter about like, hey, this is the guy we're betting minus 200 on because he's minus 200. He's getting dropped by Guk Choi. But if I'm being honest, man, Seung-Guk Choi, I've been most impressed by him and his style in that road to UFC. Not necessarily because he's like, oh my God, he's so polished. It's just that he's a tricky character. But once you figure him out, which can typically take some time, you can beat him, right? Some people take longer. And Park, it took him about 3 rounds to figure him out, and he did. I know he's been at one point training at Bang Tao. He's been away for what, about a year, 9 months. I'm going to pick him to win. I'm not going to bet on him, though. I think there's a good chance, again, for a live bet on Park. Uh, this is similar to the mentality I have when it comes to like Benio Dariush and Sarukian, just like on the lower level. If Shannon Ross can survive that first round and or some nasty shots, again, Park doesn't really carry a whole ton of power, but 9 months can really do a lot to a boy. Maybe he's been eating his Wheaties. I don't know. But if he can't knock out Shannon Ross, I think there's a good chance that round number one, round number two can go to Ross. Then round number three is going to be interesting because I think at that point, if Park starts like mixing things up, because I think he's a competent enough striker, competent enough grappler that he can win really anywhere, anytime he wants. It's just that, again, it depends on if Shannon Ross really wants to keep his job. I think Shannon's capable here. But I'm going to pick Park to win this one by knockout in the third round. I think he is kind of like a slow starter. And with him being away for so long, I think he's going to have that same issue here where he's going to start slow, where all the money on Shannon Ross is going to look great. Like, oh, yeah, we got him early. Now he's like minus 300. He's going in the third round. The issue with Ross, though, is that he is one touch away from self imploding, which is why I can't trust the guy, right? Like, Park doesn't have the power. I think Ross is scrappy enough to be the better striker that night. But when Young decides to like let things go, I think that's when we're gonna see like Shannon Ross is wobbling all over the cage again. Here we go. So I'm gonna go with round number three for Park TKO. I think he eventually does find the chin of Ross after maybe having a rough few rounds. Next bout, we've got Kenan Song at welterweight versus Kevin Air Jousset. Minus 170 for Jousset. Come back on Song plus 145. I kind of hate this fight because, like, realistically, I'm gonna pick Jusei to win this one by decision. I think number one, he's never been knocked out, but he's just the more active of the two. I don't like how he doesn't move his chin. He's gonna be a bigger dude. He's fought at 185 himself. I'm not a big fan of Jusei. I picked against him in his UFC debut again with Crosby just because I thought Kiefer Crosby had the activity, the boxing, and somewhat the chin to be able to deal with Kevin Jousset, but like Kevin just kind of out. I don't even know what to call it. Like he just outgassed him, even though it was just more of Crosby gassing himself out just by being in bad physical condition. But he throws well, fights with city kickboxing, throws good calf kicks, doesn't move his fucking head, which is why I don't like betting him. I don't want anything to do with him because I think he may win some fights and then eventually like his non head movement finally caught up with him. And Song could be the guy. It's just that again, he doesn't throw too much. He's not active. He's more of like a one punch kind of guy, not a whole ton of combination. But if he does crack Jusei, I think he can hurt him. Again, I don't want to put all my eggs in that basket of Kenan Song landing just that one right good punch against a guy who's never been knocked out. So I think Jusei is going to just do more. He's going to land more, and he's just going to outpoint Kenan Song. I think Song could even steal around here, but I'm going to go with Jusei by decision. Next bout, main card. Is that the opener? Yeah, main card opener. I really was thinking about this fight a lot just because I like the odds on Muniz, who is plus 180, come back on Iron Turtle, Jung Young Park minus 220. Honestly, the odds here are just kind of strange. I don't know what the term is, if it's like overcorrection or whatever, but I think they should be closer in the sense that you're tempting me too damn much with Andre Muniz, a guy that his only two losses in the UFC are to Brendan Allen and the guy who just fought Brendan Allen in Paul Craig. Now, I think the issue is that because of his two losses, we're thinking, I don't know what the mentality is, the group mentality with the odds makers is that this guy sucks now. I don't think that's the case. I just think that he kind of fell in love with striking a bit and he forgot to go back to his like main strategy of like taking dudes down, taking their arms, choking them out, or breaking their arms, just whatever. Like the jujitsu, he's a solid guy. The issue, what we found out, is that he kind of breaks in there. Like after he doesn't have his way, like a lot of jujitsu guys and gals, is that if they don't have their way, they kind of they kind of fade and they break. And the Iron Turtle is fantastic at breaking folk. Now, I love Jung Young Park. I've not always loved the guy, but his last fight, like I was starting to be like, yo, this guy's awesome. But after his last fight where he beat Duduev, I was like, this guy fucks. This is my kind of guy. And that little dance that he did, euphoric for me. Oh my god! Like I just rewatched it now. I was like, this guy fucking fucks, right? This guy's kick ass. Iron Turtle is so good everywhere. He has a good steady pace, good jab. He does everything really well. The issues that his price tag is pretty high after beating Albert Shitstain Duraev, who I have been saying for the longest time. I think this guy fucking sucks. I think Duraev is not a good fighter. He's a fighter capable of winning fights impressively, but he's not a good fighter. He's a quitter. Yes, you can say, yeah, he survived multiple chokes. No, dude, dude's a piece of shit. He's a quitter. Dude took a knee. He's a quitter. Fuck that guy. But I do think that, like, for beating Duraev, you should not be at minus 220. I get the line. I do think that his style is very good to beat Muniz, but there's just too much temptation on Muniz to potentially get that submission. Like, Park's been submitted before. He's been knocked out before. Muniz is a big dude. This is a do or die situation for Muniz to win. He has to go out there and win, which is a double-edged sword for me, because if he goes out there and he death gasses for that one takedown and he gets it and he gets a submission, then he covers, right? Like you did a good job betting him at the dog odds. But if he doesn't, I think Jung Young Park, he's so goddamn capable of just surviving and just steadily breaking you apart. And then when he starts landing on you, I see a really good chance here for a live betting situation. Like realistically, I'm picking Park to win this fight. I'm picking Park to win because I can't pick against him. Like I think he's hitting that, like, his stride where, although it's a fight that he can lose, it's also a fight where he can come back and win if he has a really rough first round. Now, if Muniz does not have a good first round, it's all downhill for him there. So I want to see if Park can really pull it off, because, like, in my eyes, it should be kind of a pick 'em, maybe a lean towards Muniz where he should be the favorite and Park should be the slight dog. That's how I view it. Maybe not in the odds themselves, but I view Park in this fight as the underdog, where he has to overcome this, like, ridiculously good jiu-jitsu ace to see how good he is himself. Because I like Park a lot. I see a lot of potential in him, but he's not like this, oh my God, incredibly fantastic specimen. He's not great everywhere. He's good everywhere. But, like, I like his toughness. I like his chin. I like his wrestling. I think he's so fucking solid. But I want to see him at this point beat a guy who's a specialist, beat a guy who's dangerous, beat a guy who's hungry. Because right now we've got a really dangerous, like, if Muniz gets beat here, split decision, loss, whatever, TKO, submission, God forbid a submission, that'd be embarrassing. But if that happens, he's gone. Like, we don't need this guy clouding up the division. So it's like a do or die for Muniz. So I might even consider betting Muniz here in that plus 180 range. But I do like the possibility that if Sam Muniz does go for that takedown, controls him, and then Park just survives everything, plus money on Park, perhaps just take that line on Park live. I like that angle. So I'm not betting Park, but I'm going to keep a really close eye on this one. I'm really interested in this one a lot because, like, again, Park's not the most physical dude. He's 5'10". He just finds ways, man. Like, he breaks his guys down, but he's not been fighting like the biggest caliber competition. That's my biggest issue. Like, Eric Anders went to a split decision, a fight that I thought he had lost. Joseph Holmes, he submitted that bum. Dennis Talulin, he submitted that bum. And Albert Duduev, he submitted that bum too. And, you know, losing to Brendan Allen and to a lesser extent, Paul Craig, just kind of sucks. Like, if you put it in perspective, Brendan Allen is probably going to be fighting for the title in like a fight or two. And then Paul Craig, he's a big dude, went down in weight. He's a savage, right? Paul Craig is a savage, and if you sleep on him, he'll do what he did to him. So, like, I'm not discrediting Muniz here. I'm just interested in this fight a lot, where I am considering that bet on Muniz. I'm not trying to say that to be like, well, if either thing happens, I'll be right either way. No, I'm going with Park. But my money, it will probably be on Muniz early. And then, again, I might end up putting a little bit of money, hedging my bet with that live. If Park comes out here and just wrecks his ass, and, like, here we go, baby. But yeah, I'm going to go Park I'm going to say round number 3, TKO. because he'll break him. He'll break a motherfucker. Moving on, Nasrat Haqparast versus Jamie Mullarkey. Jamie plus 180. Come back on Haqparast minus 220. Again, another fight that should be close. Kind of a pick 'em. Like, I think Mullarkey, he went from like a minus 220 against the guy who lost at Haqparast in, God damn it. I'm going to have to look because I forgot his name. McDessie. Like, Haqparast handled McDessie easily, where Mullarkey had an issue where he went to a split. And I went to unanimous, but it was a little suspect. I had a ton of money on Mullarkey and Manel Cop. I was like thinking to myself, my motive was, it doesn't matter how Mullarkey wins as long as he wins. And he won the fight. That's all that matters. But like, it was not pretty. For that overcorrection as well, for Haqparast to look great against Landon Quinones, where he's a newcomer, you know, off of the Ultimate Fighter, to now be minus 220 against Jamie Mullarkey, it's going to be a back and forth striking battle, right? And does Nasrat Haqparast have the power to knock out Jamie Mullarkey? Maybe. Jamie is kind of like a flake, though. He's a talented guy who just finds ways to lose. And he reminds me a lot like of the Wellington tournament. That's one of my biggest worry, is that he's going to look great early, put a nasty pressure on Haqparast. They're going to go at it, and then he gets hit or he gets clipped or he gets dropped. Like, I expect Jamie to get back up, but is that going to be too much for him to lose a decision? I've been a fan of Mullarkey for a long time. I like both of these guys, like Kelvin Jr. over here. Great boxing southpaw. He's super tricky, good volume. I just don't know. Just because of the odds, I am leaning Mullarkey, if I'm being honest, because like, I do see this one going back and forth, being a pretty good, fun fight where either guy could win. Kind of a dogger pass for me on this one. I don't see where either or has like a significant advantage, other than like Jamie Mullarkey maybe being able to out wrestle him potentially. I don't know, man. Like, I like what I saw from Nasrat in his last fight with Quinones, where Quinones was landing the low kicks, which I think is what Jamie's going to end up doing, where he kind of countered those kicks by just going ballistic on him. Like, his legs were beaten up, but he just kind of kept pushing forward. I'm gonna go with Mullarkey for a decision here. I think Jamie is, what I'm gonna say is contradictory. If Jamie Mullarkey fights smart, which he won't because he's incapable of doing so, I think he's got a good chance. But like, I see that there's so much talent with Jamie that like a bad performance is not something to be like, oh, let's forget about this idiot. Two bad performances actually against Naimov. He was looking great, and then he got cracked by that cheat, steroid using cheat. I'm gonna go with Jamie by a decision. Either or, really. I don't think the odds are correct here. I think it should be a kind of a pick 'em. Moving on, though, Sumadarji versus Tim Elliott. I'm going Tim Elliott here, short notice or not. Like, I like Sumadarji a lot. Like, I mean, I really like Sue. I like his striking, but going back watching his fights, he's not the best at stuff and takedowns. Like, he's just a very good striker. He's been away for what, a year and 4 months. Plenty of time to get better at the grappling. It's just that, damn, like, I think Tim Elliott's a different kind of cat. Like, minus 160 on Tim. I think he is the kind of guy that like will not stop. Now, if he gasses out, that becomes an issue because he is taking this on short notice. But the fact that he's taking it on short notice makes me think that he's like in decent enough shape. Now, I think Tim's going to have a lot of success on the feet, which will then lead into his takedowns. Like, he tends to do that. Like, he's super awkward. Now, if Sue goes out there and just pops him and finishes him, it is what it is. But I do think that Tim is more than capable of sneaking up on him, using his quote unquote veteran tactics to get takedowns and to dominate him. So I'm actually going to pick Tim Elliott to get a third round TKO. I think finishing Sumadarji gets him right back into like the talk of like, hey, who can he fight next? Because he's number 10 in the world. I think it's a good time for him to actually get a good win over maybe not a household name, but a name that a lot of the fans know, like quote unquote hardcores would know a guy like Sumadarji, the Tibetan Eagle. Super fun guy. But like, going back, watching tape on him, like getting taken down by Matt Snell pretty easily, Tim Elliott's going to be able to do that to him for as long as he can, And I think eventually Sue will accept position instead of like gassing himself out to get tired. Like, I expect him to maybe lose, obviously, round number 1, round number 2, he stuffs takedowns, gets taken down, eventually says, you know what, I can ride out this round on the back, just survive, and then come back round number 3. But by round number 3, he's probably going to be eating too much damage, and that's where he gets TKO'd. I'm going to go with Tim Elliott round number 3. We got Anthony Smith for the co-main event against Khalil Rountree Jr. minus 240 for Rountree. Come back on Anthony Smith plus 200. I listened to both of their interviews, and I didn't like either of their interviews, particularly Khalil Rountree, because, like, bro, the dude was like, here's my impression of Khalil Rountree. When they asked him a question like, Khalil, how's your day been? Well, it's the afternoon, but it's been pretty good. It's like, bro, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, he was just overthinking fucking everything. Like, he was overthinking every question. Like, what the fuck are you in deep philosophy for when they're asking you, like, oh, where do you think this fight takes you if you bit Anthony Smith? That's a good question. I'm like, you fucking. It just bothered me, right? I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with him? Like, is he trying to like calm himself down? Like, the only time he actually seemed excited about anything was when he was talking about golf, and I'm like, that's cool, but like, Khalil gives me like weirdo vibes, which I don't know if that's a really good thing or a really bad thing, because like it sounds like a bad thing, but like he might just like be saving up all that like craziness for the cage, because like in the cage, the man is literally he's the if Sean Strickland can take like an image of how he feels and what he wants to do to folk, it's Khalil Rountree. That's his avatar almost. Like in the cage, it's like Sean Strickland, like what he wishes he could do, like beat the shit out of fucking folk. As for Anthony Smith, like he is an older dude. He's 35. He's still damn. I thought he was older than that. Damn, he's 35. I thought he was like 37. Plus 200 on Anthony Smith is kind of like an auto bet, like an insta bet, not like an insta bet, like an Instagram bet that you show off to people that you didn't actually bet, that you just tell people that you bet. I mean, like you have to bet it before it changes. I think it's like win or lose. Plus 200 on Anthony Smith is kind of tempting because like he can get cracked early, but if he can work his jujitsu, because he's got sneaky jujitsu at what 205, he can do some damage to Khalil. Like I've never forgotten that Andrew Sanchez probably is the guy who broke Khalil Rountree to the point that like he needs therapy, where he's like whipping his ass, getting takedown after takedown, and he's telling his mom to shut up on national television. Like, yeah, the issue is that Anthony's not the same durable guy that he used to be, and I think Khalil Rountree is eventually gonna TKO him, whether it be by leg kicks, by like just vicious body shots. Khalil's just a different animal. Unfortunately, he's a war horse. Although I don't really, I see that that's his nickname, but do we really call him the war horse? Like, I don't know. He needs like a proper nickname, like the emotional serial killer or something like that. Uh, I don't know about Lionheart anymore though. Like he's another guy that like I can't really trust him in the cage. Like he'll have mental breakdowns in there. I can expect Khalil to have a mental breakdown outside of the cage, but inside the cage, he's kind of like murder mode. So I have to go with Khalil by second round knockout, something along those lines. I think he eventually catches Anthony Smith, but Anthony's tricky, right? Like he's a very tricky character. He's fought a lot of good folk. He's fought a lot of good competition. He's very, 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 very skilled and very experienced as well. So it's not something like I'm interested in betting. Maybe inside the distance, I might even take a little sprinkle on Anthony Smith. But like for me, it'd probably be like another shot at Khalil Rountree inside the distance just to see, because I think he's more than capable. The only issue that I can see Khalil Rountree having, like a big like asterisk point, is that um, if Khalil gets disqualified, in the sense that like he might go for those like body shots while the guy is grounded, and then Anthony Smith might eat one on the face or something like that, where he can't continue. Like, although I love those kicks to the body, I don't know if Anthony's the kind of guy that would take it to the chin, but if he really wants that Poatan fight, if he takes a nasty shot to the chin from being grounded, you know, they might be like, "Don't sue us, and we'll give you Poatan." I don't know. I'll take Khalil Rountree by knockout. And then the main event of the evening, El Guapo Chris Gutierrez plus 290 versus Kung Fu Kid Song Yadong minus 370. That minus 370 is ridiculous. I'm going to pick Song. It's a great striking matchup, right? Like the reason I'm going to pick Song, not because of the odds. To me, I think he is finally developing. Like he's allegedly 26 years old, but the dude is finally hitting his like perfect stride where like against Ricky, where he was a dog in that fight against Ricky Simone. He TKO'd him in the was it the fifth round, I believe. I just want to make sure either the fourth or the fifth. I know it was the last few rounds, but that plays a big factor into the fact that where was it? Dude, he was gonna fight Rob Font. Poor Rob. He knocked him out in the fifth round, which to me tells me not only is his cardio on point to like throw bombs for 5 rounds, his wrestling defense was good, his cardio was good. I think Song Yadong right now, he's in the absence of a lot of dudes in that division at 135. He's going to be the guy that actually like starts making his case for a title shot. Like if Corey, who I thought he had a really good fight with Corey, he got stopped via a cut. But if Corey's out and they need someone for the let's just say, for example, Cheeto wins that fight against O'Malley. Does he want to have the rematch against the guy who quote unquote robbed him in the Song Yadong? That'd be interesting. So I think Song is just primed right now to be the guy that like skips a ton of people if he gets a good knockout here. Like Chris Gutierrez, to me, very, very good fighter, right? Like he's more than capable of winning, even at those odds, like plus 290 to me, like a little disrespectful. People call him kind of a chinny 32-year-old. I don't think that's the case. I don't think he's particularly chinny. I think he's going to look possibly chinny against Song Yadong because he throws massive power. Song's chin is also pretty good as well. Like Chris, nasty hard low kicks. It's just that with those hard low kicks, it opens him up to potentially getting taken down, getting countered with a nice right hand from Song Yadong, who has massive power. It's going to be a fun matchup where, to me, at this point, the odds on Song Yadong, like it ain't worth playing for me, right? Because Song is more than capable of whipping his ass for 5 rounds and getting a decision or finishing him early or along the way. Chris, I haven't seen him get really too hurt. I like the ability to move. Great wheels on this guy, like using the fence very well. He can also be the matador here and like pick and choose spots. Like he just beat an Asian in his last fight in Halatang Haley, but different, way different Asian here he's fighting. He's more of a California Asian, those bad motherfuckers. So I'm gonna go Song to win this fight. I'm gonna not necessarily pick boldly, but I'm gonna say maybe round number 4. Now the reason I'm picking like later rounds, I think he can catch Chris Gutierrez. Like Chris, not saying that he doesn't have great cardio. I think he does, but after say 3 rounds of him like moving too much, he's gonna eventually slow down. And Song, as long as his legs aren't super beat up, I think he's gonna eventually find the chin. Like he might be whiffing punches where he's missing by like millimeter, but eventually when he slows him down enough, he's gonna be able to crack him solid where he gets stopped. So I'm gonna go round number 4 TKO. And again, like I do think Chris is capable of winning this fight where if he invests early in those low kicks and if Song Yadong doesn't fight intelligently, which like say he's given those kicks to you, either check him or try to go for a takedown, try to catch one, try to like blitz him, take him off of his feet a little bit. I think he's more than capable, right? Like he's a solid fighter, training at Team Alpha Male for years. Like, dude, he's bound to fucking pick up a single leg. So I'm gonna go Song Yadong 4th round TKO and see how this goes. But I'm interested in a lot of these matchups, like more for just spectating and watching them opposed to like betting them. There's a couple that I might live bet. I have a baby shower I got to go to that day too, so I might just not stress too much about these by putting too much money on them. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Hopefully your bets cashed last week because mine sure as hell didn't. Not super salty about it. It is what it is. Just it is what it is, man. It just fucking sucks. More interested in my fucking voice. So, like I sounded like a fucking. I sounded so rough. I sounded like a black dude from like Louisiana, where I called like to set up a doctor's appointment. They're like, no, you called the wrong place. We don't do chicken and waffles here. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm asking for a fucking doctor's visit. So I'm glad I'm getting better. Hopefully no one else is getting sick too, because like I got whatever might be floating around there, like kick my ass. It's still not going away. I feel better though overall. But yeah, let me know what you think. Like, share, subscribe, Johnny. TigerBomb. See you next week.